Hi, my name is Tanya and welcome to my small backyard vegetable garden here in central Victoria. Autumn has well and truly hit here in the garden. It has turned so cold today and we had a lot of rain last night. We were only supposed to get 4 millimeters of rain and it came down very heavy. It was such a nice surprise to get so much rain, and today already we've had all the seasons this morning, and although the sun is shining right now, I'm not sure if it is going to stay that way. The last of the tomatoes are hanging on here. I have hopes of being able to continue picking these right until I pull all of the bushes out. But I think the harlequin bugs are going to beat me to it. They have moved on from my capsicums in the garden bed across into the tomatoes, and I think they will spoil my plans. I've come up to hopefully get on and get some beds cleared out ready for autumn planting. I need to top dress and put some nutrients back into the soil ready for autumn and winter crops. These beans, I will need to leave them dry out before I pick them. I was up and picked a heap of tomatoes and these are just what is left here. And this indigo ruby grew fruit, but nothing ripened. These sunflower stalks need cutting out. There's so many jobs to do in the garden, but I do absolutely love the work that comes with the autumn garden. Surprisingly, with the rhubarb, everything is looking really good until I get to the Sydney crimson and it is just going downhill. I wouldn't be picking anything from there. The little pumpkins that I put over along that edge have little pumpkins on them. That's the Jack Be Little. And I've done a little bit of tidying up and pulled out the tomatoes here and the Japanese climbing cucumbers. So I'm ready to get on and get these beds cleared out. A lot of those little Roma tomatoes probably won't ripen, so I'm not going to wait for those. The wind has really hit these dahlias and knocked them around last night. And I think every one of these onion seeds germinated, which I am certainly not complaining about. And I can either leave them like this and eat them as spring onions, or I can transplant them into the garden beds. This is the amount of rain we've had, certainly more than 4 millimeters. The brassicas did enjoy it, and the snowball cauliflowers are growing on through those browned leaves. Everything has enjoyed that rain we've had. And the seed snails are quite sodden. I've taken them out of their trays and they were sitting on this tabletop, which is just a perforated metal so that the water can drain through. But I cannot wait to get those into the garden, which is spurring me on to get them cleared of all the tomatoes. The capsicums have lots of fruit on them. I find it very frustrating having to net them from Mrs. Possum because it's not so easy to get in and pick anything, but I will be coming back and picking any capsicums that are worth picking or big enough to pick. These Mad Hatters have fruited really well. There's lots of new fruit coming, which is going to make it difficult trying to get these dug up and repotted for overwintering. This delight capsicum is another prolific fruiter. It's such a nice lime green, but I think they do turn red. And to make sure I don't end up with a heap of mozzies, I'm going to get rid of some of this water in these trays because we have fine weather forecast again, and I will be putting them back in for that. But the rain is coming again, so let's go sow some seeds. This pretty turtle is now flowering and it looks absolutely gorgeous. I think it is part of the African violet family, but the color of those little flowers, they remind me of penstemons or penstemons, whichever way you pronounce it. They are absolutely gorgeous. I think the foliage is beautiful enough, but these sitting on top really finish it off. Everything is looking pretty happy in under here, and this blue star fern is so easy to grow. I do need to get this turmeric potted up, and I had planned to put it in this terracotta pot, but I think it will need a deeper pot. These are all the tomatoes I cleared off the bushes earlier this morning between the rain, and they've just been sitting here drying out. I need to get these separated and put into baskets so they're not all heaped in there together. I am so going to miss being able to have fresh garden tomatoes. I've been trying to keep as many as I can in the freezer, eating them every day and just making the most of being able to pick them. I have really enjoyed this mini Roma. It is like picking and eating bunches of grapes. They have quite a good flavor with not many seeds. I'm just throwing the ones out that have already split, and that is why I went out and picked them. I didn't want to leave it too much longer, otherwise they would be all splitting after so much rain. I was going to leave them on the branches, but they are coming off so easily. And there's another split one. I'm just throwing them out onto the lawn. The birds can tidy those up for me. There have been so many tomatoes on this mini Roma bush that you have more than enough. And one chocolate cherry tomato on top. These are the jaune flame, not quite sure how you pronounce it. They are very similar to the tigerella in the way that their skin is very thin, and really for the flavor, they're quite a sweet tomato. These were the San Mazzanos that ended up crossed. I think they were from seed that I had grown last summer. These are the tigerellas. These were from a digger's punnet that I had purchased. And this is a funny shaped San Mazzano. and a little basket of mixed San Marzano shapes. And these two, as you can see, are very similar. They're fruit that bruises quite easily, and you have to be quite careful with them. Everything has germinated and is growing really well with the warm weather that we'd had. I have a few more things that are just coming through the soil. And I'm looking forward to these couple of extra calendula colours. And now this hardneck garlic is coming up through the top of the seed snails. These are the red skin capsicums. All are looking great except that one, which isn't too bad. I'm not quite sure what happened to that one, but it is looking very sad, and I might just cut my losses and pull it out. I sowed some Italian sprouting broccoli just to give it a try. I put it in just a couple of little pots, and I sowed the 2 Rudbeckia seeds that I had purchased. And these are looking absolutely gorgeous. I have to cut out a bit more hessian to make some seed snails. So I'm just going to cut up this piece, and it is a bit longer than I had been using, but I figure that I can make either one really long seed snail or cut it in half and get 2 shorter seed snails out of the one piece, which works well also. And that looks a really good size for a smaller amount of seeds to sow. And really, I should have put the Italian sprouting broccoli into one of those than into those pots. I like to have a few already cut out so that I don't have to stop and do this every time I want to sow seeds. I try to come out and cut some up so I've got some ready to go. So while I'm here, and now I have some cut out, I'm going to sow some seeds. These are the next 4 on my list. I sort of put a few to the front of a bunch of seeds that I want to grow. I'm going to grow more rainbow chard and calendula, and seeing there's only 20 seeds in one and 25 seeds in the other, I'm just going to sow the lot of each of them and into smaller seed snails. It has been a great use of these Coles bags, although we also use them for lining our compost bin. I am going to have to try and find a compost thermometer or a soil thermometer because my thermometer has broken. The tip came off when I was testing the temperatures of the beds a couple of months ago. So that is one thing that I like to keep an eye on when I start planting in the garden beds. I find it so interesting how warm they get going when I top dress them. Just had some coir soaking in this big pot. And I've mixed up a new brew of seed sowing soil in my big copper here. I mix a bag of seed sowing potting mix, some worm castings, and I put in some coir. I add water to it to make sure the soil stays moist, and then put a cover of wool over it to keep it damp. And then it's just there and ready to go when I need it. Now this is nice and damp and would be perfect to put into pots, but for seed snails I like to add a fair bit more water so that when you hold it and squeeze it, it does actually stay in a clump. It makes it very easy to roll that way, and the seeds have nice moist soil underneath. Any excess drains away out the bottom of the seed snail, so they do not sit in too much moisture. But as you can see, it makes it so much easier for rolling and working with to get the tie around. These ones made of hessian with the paper lining have been working so well germinating. They do stay wet when they have been rained on, because that is what's going on with the ones up the top. But here in underneath the veranda, they germinate so fast. It gets beautiful warm morning sun here, and that coir that stays damp in underneath the ones in the tray there, everything is sprouting out of the soil within days. This is the rainbow chard. I'm hoping to have a lot of this planted up in the garden beds, and I will be treating it very much like an annual this year. I haven't had any growing for a little while with all the heat. This is a cup that's come out of the kitchen. It had a crack in it, and we have had it for absolute years, and it makes the perfect little holder for some potting mix. Now I just peg the seed packet to the front, and I will date that. I am trying very hard to make sure I date and keep a track of when I sow things. It's not something I normally do, but I've been trying to be much better about it so that I can keep an eye on when things are sown. This is a great size little seed snail. Should be enough soil in there to not have to hurry to plant or top up. These are the calendula, a touch of red buff. I've been trying to get a couple of things sown every couple of days just to keep on track. Put a bit more water to soak them in, and that's 2 more off the list sown.